As we tighten the noose around the Iranian regime, we must pay close attention to where President Ahmadinejad's increasingly isolated government looks for friends and resources. Unfortunately, there are some countries in this hemisphere that, for political or financial gain, have courted Iranian overtures. They proceed at their own risk, the risk of sanctions from the United States and the risk of abetting a terrorist state. Within 4 years of President Ahmadinejad's election in 2005, Iran opened 6 new embassies in Latin America, including Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and Uruguay, in addition to the 5 embassies Iran already had. Iran has announced its intention to form a joint oil company with Venezuela, signed a memorandum of understanding to cooperate in oil activities and personnel training with Ecuador, been awarded the right to explore 12 oil and gas blocks in Bolivia. In October, we learned of Iran directing a plot to assassinate the Saudi ambassador on U.S. soil, using individuals it believed to be members of the Zetas drug cartel. And 2 months later, the Spanish-language network Univision aired a documentary that depicted a 2007 cyber attack plot by the Iranian ambassador in Mexico in conjunction with diplomatic officials from the embassies of Venezuela and Cuba to infiltrate U.S. government computer systems in the White House, FBI, CIA, and 2 nuclear facilities. Ahmadinejad has said, and I quote, "When the Western countries were trying to isolate Iran, we went to the U.S. backyard," end quote. We cannot ignore the geostrategic significance of Iran forming alliances with countries in the Western Hemisphere, particularly with anti-American leaders like Hugo Chavez and Daniel Ortega. This is especially threatening in light of the recent plot to assassinate an ambassador on U.S. soil, which our intelligence community believes is evidence that the leadership in Tehran feels increasingly emboldened in its plan to undermine American interests and those of our allies. Some may argue that Iranian influence in this hemisphere is yet to materialize, that what Iran actually brings to the table is unfulfilled promises, factories unbuilt, ports undredged, humanitarian aid undelivered. That Venezuela, Nicaragua, Ecuador, and Bolivia allow themselves to be courted by Ahmadinejad to stick a proverbial finger in America's eye. And that may be true. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the possibility, given Iran's worldwide terror escapades, that there are more to be told to the story, or that at a minimum, that will be. We live in a new world. It is a world in which an airplane used for commercial and business travel has become a weapon of mass destruction. It is a world in which a letter can be used as a deadly weapon when it is laced with anthrax. It is a world in which we must think differently than we thought before September 11th. I think it is in that spirit that my own view of what this hearing is about is that we must look at the potential, the possible, and think outside of the box. And understanding in my mind that if I wanted to do harm to the United States, if I could operationalize the ability to do that in America's front yard, then I certainly would want to. That doesn't mean that it may eventually effectuate itself, but I would think that the desire to do so would be real. And therefore, I take General Clapper's comments seriously. I take the Department of Defense's view of the efforts of influence here seriously. And it is in that spirit that we have held this hearing and will continue to pursue information as it relates. And since I assumed the chairmanship of this subcommittee, I've had it as my focus to pay attention to this part of the world, for which we have often not had the full attention of the broad scope of U.S. policy in a way that is in our national interests and our national security.